Yes, guys, hello. Welcome to SpursRelated. And as always, I am joined by my co-host, Michael and Andre from Canada. And as you guys can see, we've got a very, very special guest this week, guys. We have got Spurs legend, Micky Hazard. Micky, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. I hope you're doing well. How's
My
things?
pleasure. Everything's good and great to be on the show with listening Spurs fans.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm sure we'll have a lot of fans in the chat that sort of will be of an era that they won't have seen you live. We'll have a lot of fans that will have seen you live. Certainly, I know my dad was a big fan of yours, Micky, so I'm sure he'll be watching at some point as well.
I thought you were going to say your granddad there.
Yeah, brilliant. But unfortunately, we've got to start on a bit of a dampener, guys, of course, because last time we were live, we were previewing the Mora match. And now, obviously, after the Mora match in the Europa Conference League, Micky, we'll start with you. Did you watch the game, first of all?
If I did, I can't remember it.
Oh, you've forgotten about it quickly. That's a good thing.
It can't have been very, very good.
It wasn't good. It was the European game. The European game away.
I did watch the game.
Yeah.
And I wished I hadn't. Because in all honesty, it reflected nothing of what the Spurs philosophy should and are about. We were poor. You know, sometimes I look at games and from a perspective of a player who's not in the team. And sometimes you get given opportunities that maybe you haven't earned. And when you get those opportunities, you have to show that I want to be in the first team. There was certainly none of the players who were fighting to be in the first team. None of them showed anything that you would sit up and say, he's got a chance. He should be playing Saturday. So they make the manager's job easy. The job of squad players is to make the manager's job hard. You've got to show the manager that I should be in the team. And whether he picks you or not, you keep showing him and keep knocking on his door and keep telling him, look at my performances. But as yet, our understudies, if you like, are not showing anywhere near the required standard to force the way into the first 11.
Yeah, exactly that. And like you said, like from just watching the game and seeing how many of those players, I mean, certainly from my point of view, almost didn't want to be there. And for me, it was one of the most embarrassing performances.
Yeah.
Micky, would you have got that kind of lackluster sort of energy where, well, exact opposite really, like no energy at all? Would you have got that in your sort of playing time?
It's easy for me to sit here and say no, because as time passes, our memories get a little bit clouded. We think we were all great players. We think we never had a bad game. We think that we always went out and gave 500%. I'm sure that we had bad performances. The one thing I could never, ever accept from any teammate or any player when you're out on the park is that you don't give your all. Now, am I saying that our players didn't give their all? I'm not sure they did. I'm not sure they didn't give their all. Sometimes you're just simply not good enough. And there's a difference between being not good enough and not trying. Dele Alli, for instance, if we talk about Dele, who I absolutely love as a player and think that when in the first few years of arriving on the scene, he was absolutely sensational. A joy to watch. I loved watching him. He had everything going for him. And now he looks almost like he's a broken man, almost like he's still playing under Mourinho, who shattered his confidence as such. That's not... Dele Alli can be a great player again, but the first thing he has to do is rebuild himself. He has to rebuild his confidence levels. He has to build himself back into this... when I describe Dele, I describe him as a kid who just went down the park and played with his friends, but he was actually playing on the pitch in front of 50,000 in the Premier League. When he played against Real Madrid at Wembley, he was just like he was out with his mates.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
He needs to somehow rebuild himself to get back to that, because once you've been great, there's nothing to say that you can't become a great again.
Yeah.
And that for me is a manager rebuilding him or playing a part in rebuilding him, because he's a player that was superb in our team under Pochettino. There's no reason why he can't be superb again.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you spot on. Like, it almost seems like, I feel like what you were saying there was the enjoyment of football has gone for him. It's almost like that's the secondary part of it now. He's sort of turning up to his day job rather than when he came into the team, he was so energetic. He wanted to play every minute. You know, he was so up for everything, and now it's just diminished, hasn't it? He's a shadow of the player he was.
Sadly, yes, sadly. But I've seen players throughout my lifetime and throughout my time in football who go through really, really bad periods. But when they come out the other side, they're actually better footballers for having the bad period, because it toughens you up, it builds your character, it makes you know how to deal with adversity. And when you have to remember that Dele's young, and when he broke on the scene, absolutely everything he touched turned to gold. And then Mourinho arrived, and suddenly Dele's fortunes took a nosedive, and a very big nosedive. And Mourinho wasn't the best manager in the world at picking players up off the floor. He tended to keep them down on the floor, or his actions did. Dele has to forget all that's gone before, and he has to remember when he was great, when the Spurs fans loved him, when we all loved him. What was he doing? He was playing that with an open, free abandon. Pretty much in the way that we want our Tottenham Hotspur footballers to play. We want them to play with that gusto, that flair, that creativity, that to dare is to do attitude. If you don't dare, you can't do. And Dele has to get back to that. He has to be daring. He has to be brave. He has to get on that ball, demand that ball, and he has to show everybody, look, I can be great again. I was great once, and I'll be great again. I, for one, hope that the real Dele comes back, because I absolutely adored him when he was at his best.
Yeah, I think everyone would agree as well. Like, he was one of my favourites as well. Sure, Michael and Andre agree as well. But
yeah, such an exciting player to watch.
Yeah, it's just
he was always so good to watch, but I even feel like he was starting to drop off a bit right in that last season with Pochettino. He wasn't performing as well as he normally was.
Yeah,
and Mourinho came in, he got good again, and then he dropped off again.
Yeah, he had a small boost towards the beginning of Mourinho's reign.
But he scored a couple of goals in the first couple of games, didn't he?
Yeah, I remember Mourinho's first game in charge against West Ham. I think Spurs won it 3-2 at the London Stadium, and Dele did that incredible sort of flick on when he was on the ground on the touchline, kept it in. I can't remember who it was. I think it may have been Son or someone who scored.
Lucas.
It was Lucas, yeah. Son got the first one. And Lucas ended up scoring from that. And it's that sort of hunger that he showed then that is what feels like is missing now, not just from him, but from a lot of players at the moment.
Yeah, I agree. Micky, do you think that this, obviously we're sort of gone on the reviewing Dele Alli route, but do you think that's a bit of everyone in terms of like the whole enjoying football almost factor has gone in the camp, has gone in the team?
I think that Mourinho must take part responsibility. Listen, I'm not here to criticize Mourinho, because ultimately it's the players, it's your own character that dictates. If Mourinho told me to play in the way he told our team to play, I'd tell him to piss off. And I tell him to piss off because that's not how I want to play the game. Yes, of course, I would listen to the tactical side that he wants me to do. But when I've got the ball at my feet, he doesn't know what I can see. He's sitting on the dugout. What I see on the pitch is totally different to what he sees. And also, I play to my own strengths, right? So, and obviously within the framework of the team, I think what happened with Dele is he lost his identity. Mourinho found it difficult to accept that this player who was quite sensational at times suddenly went off the boil. And then it's, for me, a manager's responsibility to pick up the individuals within your team. And of course, they've got to fit in the framework of the team. But you must never forget that they're individuals. And it's the individuals ultimately that will win you the game. For instance, Toby Alderweireld and Jan Vertonghen for me, was one of the best centre-back pairings ever in the history of Spurs. They were brilliant.
They just knew each other inside
That's
out
right.
from playing at Ajax.
They weren't going to be the match winners. They were going to be the ones that would help you get a 0-0 draw. Your Dele Allis, your Harry Kanes, your Sonnies, these are the match winners. These are the ones that are going to turn the tide in your favour. So as a manager, you have to treat these players slightly different to your centre backs. Graham Roberts and Paul Miller in my era, for instance, they were very dependable and hard as nails, and they did that and they did that, and you could rely on them. But ultimately, it was your Glenn Hoddles and your Steve Archibalds and players like of this ilk that were turning the game into wins.
Dealers, exactly
dealers,
that.
You know, so I look at it and I think to myself, this is a manager's responsibility to recognise the individuality of the individuals and then give them the freedom to play when they've got the ball, but when they haven't, they need to then adopt the manager's tactical defensive noose, you know. And again, Dele has to be open to those. All players, not just Dele, all players have to understand that when you're not on the ball, which is your strength, there's a role that you have to play within the framework of the team to win the ball back.
Yeah.
But when you've got the ball, it's not the manager's or the coach's responsibility to tell you how to play the game.
Absolutely.
He can give some ideas, for instance, suggestions. Look, you know, if Dele loses the ball trying to nutmeg 3 people, of course the manager can then say to him, Dele, listen, you nutmeg 1, that's great. You nutmeg the second one, that's great. But when you nutmeg the third one, you're a mug because you lose it on that one. You know? So yes, advise him, but don't take away his individuality.
Definitely. And I think you made an interesting point about Toby Alderweireld and Jan Vertonghen, because that was another point I wanted to kind of cover was, do you think that the attackers obviously aren't on fire at the moment? They're far from on fire. You know, Harry Kane's looking not very confident, the same as Dele Alli, you know, even Lucas Moura's having ups and downs, Sonny. But do you think that sort of stems from your point in terms of there's no trust in the defence at the moment? Because obviously we've got Romero coming in. He's just kind of had a big injury, so he's out for a bit. But there is frailties at the back, as we all know. And do you think that as an attacker, do you think that puts doubts in your mind about the team?
No.
You don't think it affects it?
If it does, then, wow, do concentrate on your job.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
The bottom line is that the team, the shape of the team, the defensive setup is ultimately the responsibility of the manager. Your job is to do what the manager's picked you to do. And, of course, there's a role to play when you haven't got the ball. What I will say is that if I was a manager, and I have been, I think that the defensive organisation and shape of the team is one of the keys to being successful in an attacking sense, because that gives you the base for going forward with confidence, as such as you've just suggested. But I would play the same 4 players week in, week out, because they need to know one another's strengths, have an understanding with what one another's going to do in certain situations, and they can react to that because they understand your role. If the defense has been continuously changed game in, game out, then it's very difficult for them to have confidence in each other, but also confidence in and knowledge in what he's likely to do in a certain situation. So familiarity helps breed stability, and the more they play together with each other, the more a flat back 4 or back 5, whatever you choose, the more they play together with one another consecutively, the more stable they will become. And so our defense is maybe not as good as it can be at this moment, but when you look at the changes over the last 6 months with regard to continuity, it's not happening.
You can see when you talk about familiarity being so important, it goes back to the Jan Vertonghen and Toby Alderweireld point, because obviously we know they were so close off the pitch as well as playing together week in, week out, unchanged. I think in the documentary, the Amazon documentary, Toby Alderweireld said that him and Jan's children even go to the same school. They were very close off the pitch, and that probably plays a part in them gelling in the defense, I would assume.
Well, if you want to look back a short space of time, the best defense in the country and one of the best defenses in our history was Walker, Toby, Vertonghen, and Rose. It was a sensational defence. I mean, I think they conceded the least goals. They won. That defence won every game at White Hart Lane. I mean, it was phenomenal. It was a phenomenal period.
That last season at White Hart Lane was unbelievable.
It was just phenomenal.
Barely conceded a goal there. Yeah.
What is the one thing that what are we talking about? And what did that team have? They had continuity. That defence played virtually every single game together. So consequently, they knew one another's strengths, one another's weaknesses. They knew how to cover each other. They knew what to expect of one another in certain situations. And as I said, that consistency of selection enabled that defence to develop and grow into a great defence.
Yeah,
Micky, do you think this is something you could see, talking about familiarity, possibly playing a part in Dele Alli's current, going back to that point, Dele Alli's current form? Because we know that he I think you mentioned earlier on that he sort of lost his identity in terms of his position. We know he was playing a lot deeper under Nuno, for example, than he had previously, and he's sort of being shuffled around. Could that play a part in his? I mean, obviously we know that we've talked about his ambition being not really showing lately, but that familiarity and where he's playing, could that have played a part in his dip in form?
100%. I think the lack of game time under Mourinho sort of played havoc with his confidence. The pressure that he felt under, and maybe he put himself under, because he knew when he was getting an opportunity, he had to grab it. Sometimes it does add pressure as well, and so yeah, I think that if someone was prepared to say, right, Dele Alli is for me, he's my main man in my team, it could bring him back. But to do that, you have to trust him. You have to show that you believe in him by picking him, despite the fact that it might take 3 or 4 games for him to really find his top level again, because he's got to grow. But by selecting him, number one, by 2, continuing with them, despite the fact he's searching for his best form, because in the end, his best form will come as he grows in the knowledge that I'm in the team, come what may. And I certainly think Dele at his best would be a magnificent addition to our team.
Yeah, and as he has been as well in the past.
Do you think he can? Do you think he can get back to his best?
Why not? Why not? That's the question that should be asked. You know, everybody has dodgy spells. Dele's obviously has lasted longer than what a normal. I mean, Jimmy Greaves is. If you want to hear a quote of Jimmy, when his son was speaking to Jimmy, he said, "Dad, what's the worst thing that's ever happened to you in football?" He said, "Nothing." He said, "But what about a goal drought?" He said, "Oh yeah." He said, "I hated goal droughts. It was the worst 15 minutes of my life."
I've heard that, and it's brilliant. Yeah, and
it's an incredible quote, but it sort of sums up how you have to attack a loss of form. A loss of form is temporary.
It's mindset as well, isn't it? Like that exactly. Is mindset as well.
Exactly. You know, my mindset. Look, I played with Glenordle and Aussie Dealers. You know, I was, whenever anybody needed dropping, I could have scored 2 goals the game before, but if someone needed dropping, I'd get dropped.
Yeah.
And I had to have the mindset, right? As soon as I was out the team, the only thing on my mind, it wasn't to blame the player in my position. It's not his fault. The manager picks the team. My thought was, right, I'll show you. Wait till my next chance comes along. You won't be able to drop me. You know, and that's the mindset that you have to have. You have to say, I'm out the team, but I'll show you when I get back in. Because one day, the manager, you'll need me. And when you need me and you come begging me to play, I'm going to show you what you've been missing. And that's the mindset that you've got to have. And it's the own. And don't let, you know, this is the only disappointing thing that I sort of bothers me about Dele is that look, every player loses. I used to coach in the Spurs Academy. I used to always say to the youngsters, listen, don't let success or failure lift you or knock you. I said, because if you rely on a manager saying, hey, Dele, well done, then and it lifts you, then just as he says, well done, lifts you, when he says, that's rubbish, Dele, it'll knock you. So you've got to have that sort of even level of confidence that's just on one level. It doesn't go up when someone praises you. It doesn't go down when someone criticizes you. You've got to have total inner belief, inner confidence that says, I'm a good player, whether you praise or whether you knock me. Don't let success or failure dictate your confidence levels.
Absolutely. And do you think that is potentially the thing, because he's obviously not on good form, that has affected his confidence, which has then affected his mindset, which has then affected his performance? Do you think that is what has happened?
I think it's a combination of things. Yeah, I think some of those things play a part. I think that Dele also is playing a part in his own downfall, because it feels like, and this might not be the case, but it feels like he's almost reached the point of accepting that he's playing bad, or he's nowhere near the player he was. I don't know whether he is or he isn't, but it looks that way. The point I would say to him, Dele, if I was his man, Dele, I love you to bits. I think you can be equally as good today as you were 2 or 3 years ago, but it takes a different mentality, a slightly different philosophy. He's got to be brave. He's got to go in that team and say, right, this is me. Who am I? Let's regain who I am. Because 2 years ago, he was for England. He did the same. He played down the park with his mates. He was absolutely brilliant. And it can happen again. But he's the one who has to instigate it.
I like that saying. You've used it a couple of times now, Mickey. The playing down the park with your mates. It's a key. It's a key sort of mindset thing, isn't it? Like, because if you're enjoying your football, you're normally playing quite well. If you're not enjoying your football and it seems like a chore, then you got big problems. And I can't remember who it is I talked to, but quite a lot of the time they compare it. And obviously, I don't like not comparing it to Tottenham players, but like if you remember the likes of Didier Drogba, he just absolutely loved football. He always wanted to be on that pitch, didn't he? Yeah. Same as think of Gascoigne, absolute perfect example. Absolutely. He just wanted to be there all the time. He'd probably still play now, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
He played not recently, but he played in a Legends match.
Yeah, against Inter, yeah.
You've just got to love what my dad always used to say to me. Listen, you're blessed. You're doing what you love.
For a living.
If you love what you're doing, it's not even a job. And Dele at his peak, I used to go to Wembley. I used to sit in Wembley and think, I can't wait to watch Dele Alli play. I just can't wait. I can't wait, because I know he's going to do something special. He's going to do it with a big smile on his face. He's going to try things and not be. One of the biggest things in football that you have to deal with is something going wrong, and then trying it the next time, and then the next time, and the next time.
Absolutely.
Dele Alli could do something 10 times and 10 failures, and then the 11th time he'd succeed and score a goal, or someone else would score a goal. And that's reminds me of Glenn Hoddle, also the one of the greatest Spurs players that I've ever witnessed, and certainly the most talented. No matter how many times he failed, he never lost belief that the next time he'd pull it off. And that's what true greatness is. And Dele has to get back to thinking like that.
Yeah.
Don't feel like
the world's against you.
Don't feel like you've only got £1 to feed the family this week because you're under immense pressure. Feel like you've got 4 million to feed them this week, and there's no pressure on you. And that's how Dele has to go walk onto the park, get out there, go do the business, go show Tottenham fans why we loved you, and we'll love you again.
Definitely.
Well, do you think that maybe a loan might help him? Because we saw, I think it might have been 2 seasons ago, that happened to Lingard, right? He got loaned to West Ham, and he probably thought to himself, like, all right, I'm going to be the best player on this team. And that brought his confidence back.
Yeah, but it didn't help him get in the Man United team.
Yeah.
No, listen, would I want to loan Dele Alli out? No. I want Dele Alli. If you look at our team now, we lost Eriksen. Nobody's replaced Eriksen.
Yeah,
we've lost Dele. We've not found an adequate replacement for Dele. We found dependable players that can maybe win the ball and get it and give it to someone else. We've lost that eye of the needle pass. We've lost that trick on the edge of the box that can open up any defense. Dele Alli needs to be rebuilt at Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. He needs to force his way back into the team by playing with that smile on his face, and that debt to there is to do. And Dele Alli could actually be one of the differences that could transform our team from where we're at to being something special again.
I like it. You would rely on someone like Antonio Conte either making or breaking that sort of process for Dele.
I think Conte. I think Conte is going to be amazing for this football club. And as I've said, we have to back him in every way, shape, or form, of course. And he has to earn that backing. He has to show that he can spot talent and get talent in, and then use it in the correct way in his teams. But he won't fail because he hasn't got the passion to succeed. You know, what I've seen of him so far, I actually spent the second half against Leeds watching Conte.
Watching him. I was the same.
I was so overwhelmed by his passion for the game. Remember, he's been at our club 2 or 3 weeks. To have that passion, it's inbuilt. It was amazing to see him running up and down, to see him. Even I started singing when he was giving it all this, you know. I was singing. It was like, wow, look at this. This is what we want to see. And as a player on the pitch, if that doesn't inspire and lift your passion levels, then God, you're never going to have any passion, because that was inspirational.
I was sitting in my house, and it was
I couldn't wait to watch it on Match of the Day to see what he would to see him close up when the cameras were zooming in on him. I was on the opposite side of the stadium.
So was I.
So it was like, I'm not getting any younger, so my eyesight's not quite what it used to be.
You could see him from even the other side going,
I could see him doing that, and I was thinking it's got to be Conte.
You could probably hear him from that side of the stadium as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And of course the fans. You know, the great thing about not just Spurs fans, about any sets of fans, they respond to passion. You look at a player. If you remember back to the Manchester City game at the start of who played right back that game, the young boy,
Tanganga.
He played with incredible passion that day. When he went off with cramp late on, he got an absolute rousing reception. It wasn't because he played great with the ball and beat 44 players and chipped one into the top corner. It was because he chased everything, he tackled everything, he won the ball. He played with passion and desire. And our fans, they love the flair of Glenn Hoddle's, David Ginola's, Paul Gascoigne's, Ozzy Ardiles', Mickey Hazard's. They love the passion of those.
That one in there.
They love the passions of those kind of players. The talents and the flair of those kinds of players. But God, they love the passion of players. Steve Perriman's, the Graham Roberts, the Ledley Kings, the passion of these footballers.
Michael Dawson as well.
These players play with such passion. And you can see by the way that the fans love them, is that the fans, that's what the fans want to see. That Manchester City game was the best performance of this season. And it wasn't because we passed the ball great or were really creative or played with flair. Because there's 2 ways to play the game. You can have the games where you play with incredible flair and creativity. And then there's games where you have to dig and fight and scrap for everything you get.
Definitely.
That was one of those days. And we were absolutely amazing that day, filled with passion. How we never grew. And even the second half against Leeds, the first half was like absolutely passionless. But the second half was so full of passion. And we didn't actually improve much in the technical aspects of the game.
Just the distance we ran.
We improved the passion levels and we won the game. Purely.
And they ran for the manager because of the half-time team talk clearly made the difference. So,
well, actually, I went down and took the talk.
But like you said, like an early big tackle like Tanganga was doing in the Man City game, just get the fans going, you know, get the atmosphere going in the stadium. Felt like at that Leeds game, nothing happened to get the fans going, did it?
Listen, the first, when I was playing, if we were at home, there was 2 methods to our play. When we were away from home, the management would say, silence the crowd. Stifle the opposition, silence the crowd. When we're at home, it was right. Get at them. First 10 minutes, show them that you mean business. Get at them. Put them under pressure.
Intimidate them.
Intimidate them, yes. And you create an intimidating atmosphere because the fans see how passionate you are, how urgent you are to get at them and put them under. They respond. It creates a better atmosphere to play in. And the old stadium is playing with passion.
Absolutely.
Because when the fans play with passion, you play with even more passion. So
absolutely.
It works hand in hand. The two work together. They're like fits hand in a glove. They're both so required from both sides. Which one ignites the other? I personally think it's the players that ignite the fans, but I also think there's an occasions when the fans have to take the bull by the horns and say, right, you're not playing with passion. Come on, let's just create the passion.
Yeah. It was so flat in that first half against Leeds. I don't want to talk too much about it, but it was one of the worst first halves I've seen for a long time. And it was the stadium wasn't going, and I'm not just blaming the fans for that, because obviously, like you said, the players have a massive impact on the atmosphere. And no one was putting in tackles. They were letting Leeds play into our half. And did you notice also, Micky, you at the game, obviously, we were hardly getting into Leeds' half because they were coming at us on the halfway line. They were almost doing what we should have been doing. But we were just sitting back and letting Leeds, drift into our box, the goal was always coming. And they
played like the home team in the first half, I think.
Luckily, it was the Leeds fans.
It should have been much more than one, to be honest with you. They were far superior in every department. Yeah. But what 100%. It showed was that how passionate we were, because the minute they looked a great side in the first half, the minute we played with passion and tempo, they looked ordinary. They couldn't cope with our passion and our tempo, which is basically what they did to us in the first half.
Yeah, it's absolutely spot on, Micky. I can agree more. We're going to get through a few comments that have been coming through. Yasmin is saying, Micky, I love your enthusiasm for Dele. We can see, Micky, that you're a big Dele fan, and obviously you want him to get back to his heights, right? Leo Ball says, Dele needs professional help. He needs to be confident in himself. He's lost all belief. I think a season loan would do him the world of good. What do you think of that one?
No, not for me.
Not for you.
I think that... let's rebuild him here. He's too much of an asset. When you look at the midfield players competing for a place in our team, they're very much all similar. Harry Winks, Oliver Skip, Højbjerg. Dele's totally different to them all, right? If we played Winks, Højbjerg, and Skip, where's the creativity? Where's the flair? Where's the brains coming from? They are the ones that win the ball back, and they give it to the likes of Dele and Hoddle and Nardiles and Gascoigne and Eriksson, Micky Hazard, even more so him. But you understand what I'm saying? Dele offers this team something different, something that we haven't got at this moment in time.
Absolutely.
So let's rebuild them here. Let's make them. And this is not just about a manager. It's about Dele rediscovering himself also.
And how important do you think it is for a player like Dele to sort of be rebuilt and renew himself under the philosophy of a manager like Conte, instead of going on loan, because Conte is a manager we'd all hope would be here for a long time? And how important do you think it is for him to get back into it under the philosophy and the way that manager wants to play, and that would hopefully translate into better performances going forward, as in forward in time?
Well, when you look at, if you're not motivated by Conte, then you're not motivated. So when you look at Dele Alli, for instance, if I was him, I'd be craving someone like, as long as his football philosophies are what Spurs philosophies are, to dare is to do and be brave and play with flair and create, then you can't ask for anything more in a manager. This guy, you can almost imagine him when Dele Alli comes on, nutmegs someone, it's a through pass to someone, puts someone in on goal and they score. You can imagine him running on the pitch to cuddle Dele. As a player, that's what you want. You want a manager who admires you, who actually thinks when you do something special, he goes over the top almost to say how brilliant it was. Dele must be crying out for something like that at this moment in time. Just someone to love him. Well, let me tell you, Dele, I love you, mate. And if you can just show some semblance of passion and play with the flair that you're capable of, everyone in our stadium will be eating out the palm of your hand.
Because there was a point in the Leeds game when Conte was running up and down the touchline as he does, and I thought at one point he just forgotten where the white line was. He was going to go over onto the pitch. It was just, as you said,
I think he did a number of times. He did a number of times. Yeah,
it's so inspiring to see that even as a fan watching at home.
He wasn't the only one who wanted to run over on the white line. The way he was fielding.
Yeah, I did as well. Micky.
I think everybody in the stadium wanted to get on the pitch and play. His passion was absolutely, and his enthusiasm was absolutely overwhelming. So I'm not sure there was one person in the stadium at that moment wouldn't have run on the pitch and played.
Yeah, agreed.
And it must be such an important thing with to do with the entire vibe around the club, because to have that passion and that inspiration coming from Conte. I mean, like I said, even watching at home, I felt myself celebrating even that first Højbjerg goal, the equalizer, much more than I would have when it suddenly the camera switched to Conte, freaking out and celebrating. That gives you that extra boost, and it must do so across the club.
Well, all I can say is I sat with Michael Dawson, Teddy Sheringham, Graham Roberts, and David Owls. And Teddy had his little boy there.
Yeah, he was interviewed at half time, wasn't he?
Yeah, I have to tell you, if you thought Conte's passion was amazing, you should have heard Teddy Sheringham's son. As we equalised, every single one of us was up in the air. He ran down to the front. He was screaming and shouting. This is Teddy's son. We're all jumping up celebrating, and he's like leading the chorus.
Love it.
Singing songs. He was
future player, maybe.
Well, hopefully, yeah. I mean, he's got the passion to be one.
Yeah.
I said to Teddy at the end of the game, "Oh, Teddy, his passion was phenomenal.
Brilliant.
It was almost like Conte."
Yeah.
Well, for me, I've kind of given up on Dele, but I hope he changes my mind.
I hope he does. Listen, I think there's a number of people giving up on him, and he only has himself to blame for that. As I said, the Spurs fans, they can accept you playing badly, but they'll never accept the lack of passion and desire, because that comes for free. What you have to remember is when you're trying to beat someone, or when you're trying to score a goal, or when you're trying to win a tackle or win a header or hit a great pass, there's always someone trying to stop you doing that, or intercept it, or a goalkeeper trying to save it, or a piece of woodwork. They'll accept that those things can go wrong. But what you put into that game and the passion and desire that you play with, that comes for free, because it comes from inside of you. Nobody can stop you fighting. Nobody can stop you working hard. Nobody can stop you chasing. Everybody can out-tackle you or out-jump you or dribble past you, but nobody... effort and the desire, it comes from inside of you.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, that rings true as well for Kane too. A lot of fans are not really vibing with him because he's just showing a lack of passion after what happened over the summer.
I think you have to look at Harry Kane and say that if Harry Kane had not come out and asked for a transfer, I'm not so sure the fans would be saying the things that they're saying, because I know that he hasn't scored many in the Premier League, but he still scored quite a lot of goals. Would I have advised Harry to come out and say that? No, I wouldn't have. But I can't criticize Harry. And the reason I can't criticize him is not because he's beyond criticism. It's just because he's been our talisman for so long now. And unfortunately, he plays in a position where he's totally reliant on the rest of the team. He can't play centre forward and have a team that never plays a forward pass. He scores his goals and makes other people's goals by the amount of possession that we have and the amount of chances that we create. And you can't say that Harry's getting a great deal of chances. The vast majority of chances he's getting, he's actually sticking in the back of the net. So sometimes I make a little bit more leeway for centre forwards, because it's the one position on the park whereby you are in the hands of the rest of the team, because you're the last line of attack. So you're not going to be involved in all this wonderful play sort of deep of there. Your main job is to be in the opponent's box. And we're not putting crosses in. We're not opening up defenses. We're not doing the things that Harry thrives on. So while he's not at his best, there's a slight excuse for Harry in that department. because the service has been poor.
But Micky, do you think he comes too deep all the time because he tries to create it for himself? And we know that he comes deep anyway for a striker, but he almost is coming so deep at the moment. He's going as far back as Højbjerg and Skip. Do you think Conte needs to change it up and say, look, Harry Kane, just stay in the box. Stay in the box. The chances will come. I understand your point about the chances have been few and far between. But also, I feel he's dropping back too much to try and help the midfield. What do you think on that?
Well, one of the best strikers that I played with was Teddy Sheringham. Teddy Sheringham dropped deep all of the time. All of the time. And the reason he did was because once he dropped deep into midfield, he then, when he was coming into the box, he was unmarked. He wasn't
free runner,
so he came in late. And if you look at Harry when he was at his best, when he was creating those chances and making all those goals, he was dropping deep into midfield, hitting those passes, but drifting into the box late, unmarked, and getting on the end of things, you know. So it's a part of the game that I like that he's developed that part. Yes, I agree. He's probably dropped too deep. I think that, you know, that there's a point whereby you shouldn't go beyond as a centre forward. Steve Archibald, for instance, was a brilliant footballer, but he would say, no, I'm an attacker. I'm not a defender. I'm not coming back there. I'm staying up here because I want to score goals. So there's a point where attackers shouldn't drop back. But again, sometimes I think to myself, is it as a consequence of the lack of service that he's getting?
It is.
We won't know because we won't know until we're winning games 3 and 4-0, and then there's not an excuse to drop back because we're creating lots of chances, putting lots of crosses in, you know. But we're not doing that. Is that part of the game that he's developed? Is it as a consequence of the fact that we're not doing those things?
Yeah. I agree, of course, that Kane does, of course, deserve much better service than what he's getting, and it's the old dilemma of you sort of wish that Harry Kane could pass the ball to Harry Kane, but at the same time, we haven't really lost any creative players before the season. Obviously, Gareth Bale went back to Madrid after his loan expired, but he wasn't, unfortunately, played much during the season before that. So do you think that is an excuse for Harry after not many? I mean, we haven't lost any creative players. The teams, in that sense, is the same as it was last season when he scored however many goals, won the Golden Boot and the Playmaker Award.
I sort of slightly disagree. You're right in the stats that you say, but I slightly disagree. I don't feel we've got too many creative players.
No, of course, we don't.
So, and also, I don't feel we're dominating games in the way that we have done in the past, dominating possession in particular. I think that if you dominate possession, maybe you get away with not having so many creative players in your team or ultra creative players, because your fullbacks will get round the outside and they'll whip crosses in. You know, if you look at the recent past, for instance, Kyle Walker was a phenomenal someone who got beyond the forward line and put crosses in. Trippier was a very good crosser of the ball. Danny Rose. Our fullbacks are not necessarily as prominent in the attacking third as maybe they have been in the recent past. So I like Harry dropping deep as well. I like the combination because he can almost play midfield and it passes Glenn Hoddle-esque. Some of the passes that I've seen him hit, I think, wow, even against Leeds in the first half, he hit 2 absolute world-class passes, like 40-yard switch of the play with his left foot, and then a 40-yard switch of the play with his right foot, right in behind their defender. I thought, wow. So he's got this ability, but then he's got the ability to still score all these goals. So I like him not dropping too deep, but I like him coming off his markers because I hate to see centre forwards with their back against the centre back. I like to see them playing in space, and then they can hurt you.
So you think he needs to get a middle ground, basically, from what he was last year and what he is this year? Because at the moment, he seems to be dropping deeper than normal, definitely.
Yes, at times, you know, I think that he needs to set his style out to see, right, when we've got the ball, I can drop sort of almost behind the front man rather than behind a midfielder. Because if you've got Harry up top, that space 10 yards where Delhi is very good, that 10 yards deep of that space, there's a lot of space there. And if you're a centre half dropping into those centre forward, dropping into those zones. Centre backs don't want to come into those zones because it's leaving a big gap between the other centre back and the full back. There becomes a much wider space for people to run into. So, I think that he needs to find a happy medium, when to drop, when to hold. If you're dominating the ball, you don't need Harry dropping back. If you're not dominating it, then sometimes making that man sort of 10, 15 yards behind the front man. Harry's very good at that.
And I do understand what you mean, Micky, because as you say, we have to give him cut him some slack because he's playing in a position in which whether he has a good game or not or a good season or not is basically entirely defined by numbers. It's not like a Højbjerg where he puts in a great performance with all that effort, and because he's done that, people realize that if Kane finishes the season with 3 goals, even if he's put in amazing performances in all of those games, that season is deemed a failure for him. So I get what you mean.
Absolutely spot on.
Nice way to wrap that one up. Micky, we got a few questions coming in from fans. I hope that's all right to ask you a few now. It's going to be more about maybe more about Spurs past. We talked a lot about Spurs present, and it can be a bit depressing at times, as we all know. So we talk about more of the glory days, maybe, Micky. Anyway, Paz is in here. He says, "Hi, Micky. Do you think our defence needs strengthening going forward with new defenders? Do you think basically?" Summarizes what we just said, really, doesn't it? But do you think we need certain positions in defence new?
Yeah, I think we do. I think that if we continuously chop and change the defence, then we're never going to find that ultimate understanding between the 4 or 5. So it'd be nice to see some continuity in defence, whereby we have the same back 4 or back 5 playing week in, week out to develop that understanding. But Romero looks a very, very good player. So it'll be interesting when he's fit and fully settled. But ultimately, I think that, maybe we need 1 or 2 signings, but also we need no good signing players if you're playing them 2 games and leaving them out 1, leaving them out 2. We need some understanding between the back 4 for them to develop some stability.
No, cracking answer. Yeah, spot on. We've got some from Instagram followers, like I said, Micky. I think Andre and Michael have a couple they want to ask you beforehand. Before we do, guys, there is about 30 people watching live right now. If you've got a spare 5 seconds, just hit the thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel for more content like this. And we obviously massively appreciate Micky for his time. Andre,
I think there was a message there for Micky asking him about Ryan Sessegnon as well.
Yeah, I got that one. Yeah, so Leo asks, he's interested in your view of Ryan Sessegnon and how much of an impact for competing for first team positions will we have? What are your thoughts on Ryan Sessegnon? Obviously not an ideal red card the other day, but in general?
Ryan Sessegnon. Tough one.
You're blown away by him, clearly, Micky.
Blown away by the question. The first thing I would have to say is that Ryan Sessegnon needs to have much more belief and confidence in himself. Every time I watch him play, I feel like he's almost apologetic for being there. And that's the attitude that he needs to adopt is the Dele Alli one, where playing down the park with his pals, and not be playing for Tottenham Hotspur football, because it's a massive, massive, massive football club. It's a major step up for anybody. And mentally you have to deal with that more than you have to deal with anything. That's the big thing that you have to deal with first, is coming to terms with who you're playing for and where you're playing. And I don't feel certainly in the 18 months or however long it's been, that he's actually dealt with that as well as he could have. And my advice would be, adopt Dele Alli's attitude of 2 years ago, where he was like down the park with his mates. Then we might see the Ryan Sessegnon develop and grow. At this minute in time, I feel he's always very tense when he's on the pitch. Consequently, when the ball comes to him, he's like a wall. See, when you control a ball, you need to be like a cushion. You can't be like a wall, because when you hit the wall, it bounces off you and goes back to the wherever it's come from. So my advice would be relax, chill. Think of your body like it's a cushion. So when a ball comes to you, try it, guys. Go and tense your muscles up. Really make yourself tense and try and control a ball that comes into you by just letting the ball hit you. It'll bounce away from you. But try making yourself like a cushion where it's relaxed, and and if the ball cushions into you, it's like when you lie your head on a pillow at night, you would hate it to be rock hard, wouldn't you? Because your head is lay back.
Sometimes when Spurs lose, I'd rather it was hard, to be honest with you.
Yeah, because then you could headbutt it and all that. But like I said, it's important to relax when you're out on the pitch. Not be tense, not be aware of the fans' reaction to you even. Of course, listen when they sing One Micky Hazard, but don't listen when they go, whoa, 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 whoa.
We knew you were going to say.
Ignore that.
Yeah.
Don't let that bother you at all,
yeah.
Because it's going to happen. It could be the opposing fans saying it. But you must be relaxed out on the football pitch to actually be able to express yourself and play to your best levels.
It's a pity with Ryan Sessegnon because his first career hasn't even been allowed to get started yet. He's been plagued by injuries, and then for his game to end in the manner that it did against Mura with the red card, and then
red card in
the loss
30
on top
minutes.
Of it. Yeah, it's just I do feel sorry for him because he hasn't really been given an opportunity.
It's not bad luck if you get sent off after 30 minutes, I have to say.
Yeah, of course.
Play.
Everything before that is injuries.
The first booking should be enough of a warning, and then you have to be very, very clever.
But they were both horrendous tackles. It wasn't a controversial red.
The second one was a poor tackle. Yeah.
Yeah, the second one was off a bad first touch.
Yeah, he lost the ball and then slid in, didn't he?
Yeah, that's because, like I said to you, he wants badly to succeed.
He's trying too hard, isn't he?
Yeah. So what happens is he becomes rigid because he's so desperate to do well that in his desperation to do well, his body becomes rigid. So when the ball comes into him, he's not relaxed enough to be that cushion.
It's a very good point.
It becomes a wall.
And that poor first touch that Andre mentioned probably comes back down to that cushioning scenario you pointed out a few minutes ago.
Spot on.
Can I just say this to you guys?
Go on.
Do you know parents of children would pay millions to listen to this advice?
Wow. I agree as well, Micky. Maybe I wouldn't even just say parents, Micky. I'd say some of the Spurs players need to listen to this as well. To be honest with you, maybe we need to get you on the touchline with Conte. It'd be like one of you going absolutely mental, and you're starting to go mental because he's going mental. Because I know you love it, and then maybe you'll be the words of wisdom in their ear about.
And then it just snowballs.
The most important thing about passion is to not let it cloud your judgment. It's so it's so important to actually separate, be very passionate and play with passion and watch with passion, and it's so important. But within that, you have to distance yourself from the passion, because you have to have the passion, but you've also got to be distant from it to allow yourself to see what's going on. Otherwise, how do you write what's going wrong? You have to be able to separate, and that's what I love about Conte. His passion's incredible, but when he does his half-time team talk, they come out and play like they played in the second half. So clearly that he separates his passion from his awareness. The two don't work hand in hand.
That's something as well that I noticed with Conte. Like, you can see him on the touchline, he's screaming, he's shouting, he's flailing his hands, but he's not doing it just because he's seen something he doesn't like and he's angry with the player. He's doing it because he's telling them to change something.
Exactly.
He's not clouding his judgment. He knows what he wants to see, and the passion is just trying to get that across to the players, and that's so clear. 100%. All his body language.
100%.
Nice one. Any more questions, Michael, Andre? I know you have some good questions to come.
I do, but I also do see someone asking about Pickford. I actually am.
Yeah, I didn't want to ask about that one. Pickford. Yeah, I think that's disrespectful to Lloris. That's the reason why I didn't pull that one up. Lloris is, for me, is still a world-class goalkeeper.
If we knew Lloris was on his way out, it's different, but he's still cemented.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about Pickford rumours. I mean, come on. With all due respect to the question.
Yeah.
I'm sure Micky agrees with me that Lloris is a world-class goalkeeper as well, and has been for so many years. So maybe very briefly, Micky, what do you think of Lloris?
I think he's a very, very good goalkeeper. I think that there's one or two flaws in his makeup, but then every footballer that I've ever known's got flaws. Sometimes I feel like he gets, when they're coming down on slight angle, I feel he gets too far over onto his near post. And often they score in the far post. So, they're not going to score if you're a yard and a half off your near post, because you can cover it, but also you cover the far angle. But other than that, he's quick off his line. I'd like to see him work more on his distribution.
Yeah.
But yeah, of course, you don't win the World Cup if you're not a world-class goalie.
Yeah. Exactly.
Captain of the World Cup winning team on top of that, I suppose. The leadership is important too.
Yeah, captain of the World Cup winning team as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Another one here from Paz. We're going back to your glory days, Micky, and he said, "What is your most memorable moment at Spurs?" And I'm going to guess, even not being alive at the time, was the 1984 UEFA Cup. But I mean, you tell us, what was the most memorable moment at Spurs for you?
As a former player, it's so easy to say, "Oh yeah, the FA Cup final," or "Oh yeah, the 1984 UEFA Cup final," or the semi-final where I got the winning goal, or or it's so easy to say those things. But if I had to choose one moment in my lifetime at Tottenham Hotspur Football Club, or one day, and this doesn't detract for any of the other things that I've just mentioned, not one bit. They were amazing. Amazing. If I could choose one day to relive from the moment I woke up till the moment I went to sleep at night, I would have to choose the finale.
Really?
To be part of the most incredible send-off for White Hart Lane, the stadium that I'd only ever known, I'd only ever played a part in as in the games that I played. The memories that I have of that stadium were incredible. But to be sitting in a room with 49 legends from our history, to be standing in the tunnel at the end of the game, having beaten Manchester United 2-1, and all the flag waving that sort of brought about, to stand in the tunnel, to stand just behind David Ginola and just in front of Glenn Hoddle, because it was done in alphabetical order. I like to convince myself that it was the three best looking footballers in Spurs history.
It may have been.
But unfortunately, it was alphabetical order. To stand there waiting to be introduced to the fans on a day where the rain poured down like never before.
And there was a rainbow, wasn't there?
Hang on, I'm not finished. To go out to be introduced to the fans with absolutely no idea. Remember, I'd been sort of retired, sort of bordering on 30, 25, 26, 27. I have no idea what your welcome's going to be. None. You hear David Ginola's welcome. You know Hoddle's going to get a major welcome. And I get introduced. And the fans singing, one Micky Hazard was amazing. To stand in the rain, listening with all these legends from the various decades, the great double winning side of 60-61, the early 70s team that won the UEFA Cup and the League Cup twice, to be stood on the pitch with the first team, to look along the line and think, here I am, a backstreet boy from Sunderland, sharing this pitch with legends of Tottenham Hotspur Football Club, was incredible. I then got to sing Can't Smile Without You on the pitch as it blasted out over the speaker. And then as if finally, God decided to confirm once and for all that he was a Spurs fan when he produced the rainbow that ran from the shelf to the clock was just incredible. it was like amazing. And when I got home that night, having spent the most incredible 10 hours, whatever it was, of my whole lifetime, footballistically, I got sent a Twitter message. And on this Twitter message, there was a picture of me standing in the tunnel, waiting to be introduced to the fans. And I had this look on my face. And someone had posted this picture that obviously copied it off TV, I presume. And above the picture, it had, "If pride had a face," and a picture of me below it. And I just thought, if ever a day could be more complete, that just completed my whole day. A day spent at the stadium where I've worshipped for so long, in the company of so many Tottenham greats, to witness the rainbow emerge from the sky over the stadium, to then go home and see that, it was just breathtaking and will live long in my memory. And I don't take away from any of the achievements that I did, winning trophies, etc. They were just incredible too, but nothing surpasses the finale. It was incredible.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, that sounds
Very
like a
powerful,
completely
yes.
perfect day. Yeah, perfect day,
Yes.
capped off by that message that you said about and obviously the sky and the rainbow. Yeah, and the fact that someone's noticed that you clearly, your face before you went on was a picture of pride. That must have made you feel like, well, the fans know that Tottenham.
It completed the day, the most perfect day. It just completed it. I've still got the picture stored away very safely.
Brilliant.
Because of how it made me feel. That I was emotional. We were leaving the stadium that I absolutely worshipped. So many glory nights that I've saw there and I experienced there. So many goals scored, important goals, semi-final goals. I scored 2 semi-final winners to take us to cup finals at White Hart Lane. So incredible. And then for someone to take the time to actually send me this picture and put the words above it, it was just wow. I'd pay money to have that day back.
Wow. Yeah, to be honest, I thought you were going to say 1984 or the FA Cup, but no, you said the finale. I would never have guessed that, but it does make sense from the way you've told it and the emotion you said on it and how much it meant to you, and obviously all the fans and the legends that were there. It makes complete sense, Micky.
You can tell it's a sort of moment. By the way Micky described it, it's something that we can understand why it made him clearly feel the way it did, but we'll never truly understand what that feeling
I think
was.
it's really important. It's really important that sometimes, there's a bigger picture out there, and we can all focus and zoom in on what happened to me. And I won the FA Cup or I won the UEFA Cup. I scored the winning goal in the semi-final. Whatever, we can zoom in on that and say, yeah, this was amazing. This was amazing. But the question was, what was your most memorable moment? My most memorable moment took in the whole of Tottenham Hotspur Football Club, from the little 4-year-old fan to the 85-year-old granddad who's watching the game, to the kit man, to the washing lady, to everybody who experienced and loved Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. That day was just momentous, and it was done with so much class. The club produced this day as good as any club could ever produce any day for the closing down of a stadium. I don't think it will ever be surpassed in the history of the game.
I suppose that sort of moment epitomizes the idea of no one is bigger than the club. The club is in that stadium, moves to a new stadium, no one's bigger than the club, no matter how many people are there in the stadium, no matter what goes wrong, no matter what goes right for anyone. At the end of the day,
as so many times I read that, managers come and go, players come and go, even fans to a degree come and go because they pass away. They'll love the club all their life, but then they'll pass away. But fans being the most important part of any football club, but the football club, it will always be there. And it will always have its next line of fans, its next line of players, its next line. And that's not denying that in my mind, the fans are the most important part of a football club. They what make football club great. They what make football players and everything. They give it a reason. But even so, the football club will always be there forevermore.
And there's no fans without the club, and there's no club without the fans.
That should have been my line.
Michael, you've had two hook, line, and sinkers now to finish Micky's unbelievable paragraphs.
Can we put that on quote with Jimmy Greaves' worst 15 minutes of my life?
Yeah, that's a good. That's a good
on
one.
The same level, not quite, but still.
Yes.
I don't have the goals to back it up.
Yeah. Finn's in here. He says, "Who in the current team reminds you most of yourself, Micky?"
It reminds me of the question I was going to ask.
It's a very difficult one because I like to think that I played the game with skill and creativity and flair and brains. I would say probably the nearest thing to me would be Ericsson, but he's gone.
Bit of Modric as well back in the day as well.
I was going to say Modric, but then Finn had to put the current team.
I couldn't say anybody in today's team reminds me of me.
Okay.
Mainly because they've gone for a different style of midfield player. You know, we've got for the hard workings, win the ball, pass it, possession. Whereas I was a sort of bit of I could dribble. I was a bit of a risk taker. I wanted to do great things. I wanted to excite. I wanted to try things. Maybe they wouldn't come off, but I wanted to try them. You know, I couldn't play a possession-based game where it's just keeping it for keeping's sake. You know, the minute I found space and was facing the opposition's goal, I always wanted to hit that pass that created a goal or was the pass before someone created a goal. I couldn't just get the ball from 10 yards of space facing the opponent's goal and sort of in their half and turn back and go back to the right back or to the centre back. It would have did my head in. It would have made the game boring for me. I look at Glenn Hoddle, you know, every time he got the ball in space facing the opponent's goal, he wanted to hit the Hollywood pass, the pass that opened up the defence, the pass that created a goal or the next best thing. You know, I would have been bored if I just kept it and give it and got it and give it and got it and give it and go. I mean, come on, wake me up, please. Let me create. Let me do something that makes a difference. I couldn't be this player that just said, I'm just going to keep possession, because I could have passed it back to the goalie all day long and retained possession all day long, but didn't interest me. I wanted to make that telling pass. I wanted to be putting someone in space to make that telling pass.
Yeah.
You know, don't be a centre midfielder and a creative midfielder and turn back and give it back to a centre back who's nowhere near as creative or as skillful as you. If you're under pressure, get it. But if you're in space, no, your job's to create.
Well, James, what Micky's been saying and Finn's question, in fact, sort of segues into what I was going to ask. So is it okay if I...
Yeah, go.
Micky, I wanted to ask two questions that sort of link to each other. Which player in today's squad would you have most liked to play with when you played for the team? And also, which player from your day that you played with would you think would make the biggest difference in the current team? And you can't say yourself, just as a little rule there.
I can't say myself.
You can't say yourself.
Oh, no, I wouldn't have said myself anyway. Okay. But let me say, who would I like to have played with?
Yeah, from today's squad and then vice versa, I suppose.
I'd have to say probably Harry Kane. I think that as a creative midfielder, you want somebody who can get on the end of your... You know, there's nothing worse as a creative midfielder if you put someone clean through on goal and he misses. Yeah. Because your pass never ever gets recognition. So Harry Kane generally, if you put him through, he generally finishes it. So Harry Kane would be lovely to play with. Who would come back today and make a major difference in this team? Given the status of our team at this moment in time, Glenn Hoddle would absolutely light up this team.
He would
be
I suppose.
Everything and more that they are missing. You could give him the ball in the tightest of situations with 3 or 4 men around him. He'd somehow find space to hit a telling pass. Yeah. He had vision and awareness as good as anyone I've ever seen in my lifetime. And he could hit a pass with either foot, with the inside, outside, top of the foot, back heel it. He could hit a pass over any range into someone's run with side spin, top spin, back spin, and landed on a sixpence. So it's something that this team doesn't have. Glenn Hoddle would absolutely transform this team from being where we're at to being competing at the very top of the league.
That's a great answer because it sort of connects back to what we were talking about earlier with Kane lacking the service to get the goals he obviously deserves as with his finishing ability and his awareness. Yeah, interesting.
Good one. Good answers as well. I like them.
Yeah.
Andre, what's your questions?
Well, some of them actually been answered from the comments, but let's tweak it a bit. Outside of the things you experienced when you were at the club, what would be a favorite Spurs moment that you've seen? One of your favorite ones?
Good question. Good question. I have to say one of the best performances that I've witnessed while watching Spurs was beating the European champions at Wembley, Real Madrid, but absolutely playing them off the park and absolutely annihilating them. I mean, we should have won 6. That was one occasion which was just so wonderful. I remember sitting in the top tier of Wembley, jumping up and down with excitement. And even though we were 3-1 up with a minute to go, I was saying, blow the whistle, ref, for Christ's sake. I mean, it should have been 6. And another one, I drove all the way down. I drove down to Barcelona to watch Barcelona when we need to get something out of the game to qualify for the next stages of the Champions League. We absolutely played them off the park. Again, we should have won 5 or 6. We ended up drawn, but qualifying. And watching Pochettino walk across the pitch to acknowledge the fans at the end of the game, I thought was an amazing moment, an individual moment for Pochettino, but for anybody who was there to witness it and be part of it, I thought it was incredible. So yeah, wonderful, wonderful moments from a playing perspective, but also I was there as a fan on both occasions.
Brilliant.
Yeah, that Barcelona game was so intense. I remember I was checking my phone to see the score, and at the same time, I was just
keeping an eye on the other game,
watching them play.
The other game, I was sitting up in the stand and I had my phone on keeping a track because we needed the other team to get the result. I forget who it was now.
Dortmund, wasn't it?
Dortmund, yeah. We needed them to get a draw or something. Was it Inter Milan? Who was it?
Yeah, it was a tough group. It was, yeah.
It was a really, really the toughest group of the lot.
It was Inter versus
come through. It was absolutely phenomenal. And to be playing, to get your 2 of the performances that I've spoken about, Real Madrid, who were European champions, and actually went on to win it as well. But they got an absolute pasting that day, and then Barcelona got a pasting in the Nou Camp, but drew. It was the 2 wonderful memories.
Yeah, and that were you in the away end at the Nou Camp for that? Because that 1-1 Lucas Moura scored, wasn't it?
I was directly in a line with it.
Wow!
If you can imagine where he scored, I was in a line sitting in the stand. I was sitting sort of quite high up in the stand with the Spurs staff contingent.
Yeah.
And even though I'd driven there, I drove all the way to the game.
Wow.
It was a long drive, trust me.
Yeah, that is long.
And I remember I met Steve Archibald there, who played for Barcelona as well. When we went into the Players Lounge and we did an interview with Ledley King, Gary Mabbott, Steve Archibald and myself in the Barcelona Players Lounge, or it might have not been Barcelona Players Lounge, but that's where the Spurs contingent staff were. And then I went back to the hotel where the Spurs team was staying afterwards, and we were up till 4 a.m. Celebrating. And then
with the players?
Not with the players, no.
Oh, with
they had a game, didn't they, at the weekend? They were in bed.
I was going to say.
I was in there with Steve Archibald, and I remember at 4 o'clock in the morning leaving the hotel to get back to my hotel. I couldn't find where I was. I was sort of lost. I was walking through the middle of Barcelona thinking, God, where am I? And then all of a sudden this car pulled up, and it was Steve Archibald.
Brilliant.
He was in a taxi, and he said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I've got no idea where my hotel is." He said, "I'm going to take you to the hotel." So luckily I got a lift to the hotel, and then so he dropped me off on the street of my hotel, and I walked down the street, and as I was walking down, was people sitting outside, Spurs fans sitting outside their hotel, singing my name. You know, it was a wonderful, wonderful
brilliant.
occasion.
Wow.
Brilliant. Have you got any more, Andre, or is that the question?
I'll stick with that one. That one's.
It's a nice. I like the answer as well. Good one. I've got one. I was going to say, where do you? It's a bit of a boring one, but where do you think Spurs will finish this season after seeing what Conte's done so far?
I think he's got a big job on his hands. The great thing about the job that he's got is that confidence is a very fragile thing. So just as easy as it is to break confidence, it's as easy to get it back. In other words, one great pass, one great goal, one great tackle, one great save, it can actually transform your loss of confidence to bringing you back to your best. So while he's got a really big job on his hands, and yes, I'm certain in the January window he will make signings, but I think the first thing that he has to achieve is he has to restore the belief and the confidence in the team. And as I said, you can rebuild it quite easily, but it requires guts and desire and passion. Because with those things in place, it's a matter of time before you do something great. But without those things, as we saw in the first half against Leeds, no passion, no greatness. Second half, passion, desire, heart, fight, and suddenly we turn it totally on its head and win the game. So he's got to restore the confidence, but first of all, he needs to get the passion levels up.
And if I have to push you for a position as to where they're going to finish, where do you think it would be? Because obviously, I think we'd all agree this season, Liverpool, Man City, and Chelsea are levels above at the moment.
Yeah, I think that Man United are not very good. They've got the players to be very good, but again, in a similar vein to us in many ways. And Arsenal are not very good either. Of the three, I would suggest that Manchester United and Spurs have potentially got
bit of a fight on their hands for that final.
More potential than Arsenal at this moment in time. Arsenal are playing better than us at the moment, but I think that we've got sort of better players. So it wouldn't surprise me if we challenged those two for top four. I don't think it'll be outside of those three who get the fourth position. And it's whoever discovers the belief in themselves and their form to actually carry it out onto the pitch and transform performances, because all three have been up and down and all three are capable. And it's whoever does that the best and the quickest.
So you think we can get top four, is what you're saying, Micky?
I think we can, yes, but I'm biased.
No, I agree. I don't see
I'm
there's
very
any
biased.
reason.
I at the start of every season I say we'll win the league. Maybe I have a desire to see us to witness us winning the league. I had 2 or 3 opportunities myself. We failed at the last hurdle very late in the season. We fell away because of backlogs of fixtures, whatever. Also up against the best team in Europe at the time, Liverpool. But I look at it and I think to myself, 60-61. I was born in 1960. We won the double in 60-61. I haven't seen us win the league since. And I long to see us, to witness it, and then I'll be happy.
It's scary when you put it that way, to put that time in perspective, how long it's actually been.
Yeah.
It's a long time, 60 years, isn't it? It's quite tragic. And as Arsenal fans take great pride in reminding me that we haven't won the title for so long, but then I always say, we're the first team to ever win the double. We were the first team to ever win in Europe. First team to win the FA Cup as a non-league team. So, and also we've won 3 European trophies as against your 1. So I'd much rather conquer the whole of Europe, which is a much grander than England. They choose to conquer England by winning the FA Cup and the league, but we conquer Europe. We've won it 3 times, twice more than them. Yeah, they've won the Fairs Cup, but it was a friendly competition.
Yeah, spot on. We just got a really good question in from Hodgod in the comments. It's a really good question. I think you'll like this one, Micky. He says, hello, lads. A question for Micky. What is the most outrageous piece of skill you've witnessed on the training ground in your playing days?
Yeah. I've witnessed so many incredible pieces of skills. The training grounds shouldn't be the place where they're witnessed, really. Of course, that's where they're rehearsed, but you should have the belief to carry them onto the pitch. But I was once on the pitch when Glenn Hoddle was manager of Swindon Town, and we were playing defence v attack, and Glenn was sort of organising the defence from the middle of the pitch. And the goalies were practicing hand kickouts on the other pitch. And one of them hit it miles in the air and sliced it, and it was coming right down on Glenn's head. And somebody shouted, "Watch out, boss." And he looked up like that. He just went, he jumped off the floor with both feet. He threw his left foot over the top of the ball, and he landed at the same time as the ball with his toe of his right foot and just went, stopped it dead like that. You know, normally when you trap the ball, it goes.
Yeah.
It went bosh with the toe of his right foot, and he stood there and he went, "Now, if you took a cross here, you come in there on top of the ball." Wow. I've got to say, it was one of the greatest pieces of skill I've ever seen.
And that is
draw dropper.
The most
but what was even amazing about it, what was made it more amazing, was that I spent the day before teaching him how to do it. No, it genuinely was. It was an incredible piece of skill.
I knew that was coming. That was coming. So it was an absolute jaw dropper, wasn't it?
It was. I don't think I'd ever see it ever done it. To even think of it, that split second that he had, but to actually pull it off was incredible.
It's something only Glenn Hoddle could do as a manager on a training ground after his playing days. That's insane. Yeah.
Govan agrees with you, Micky. He says European trophies over domestic trophies.
Of course.
What's the greatest achievement? You know, you conquer the whole of Europe, or you conquer England.
This is what you see with Man City. We can always throw that in their face at least.
So would you say? Go on.
Oh, we just got to bring that resiliency back. That Barcelona game, for example, was resiliency. We were at the bottom. We were like third in the group. Somehow we qualified for the next round in 2018. Then we made it all the way to the final. And a lot of them was us coming back from a really bad score, like that Ajax game.
Listen, I think that how resilient you are sort of dictates how good you are, because in every single game that you ever play, you can't lead them all. So if you're not resilient, the minute you go a goal down, that's it, the game over. So football, by its very nature, actually, it encourages you to be resilient. For instance, when we lose 2-0, if you're not resilient, how do you win the next game 3-0? So football actually encourages resilience, and that doesn't mean that you always have it. Sometimes the opponent sometimes reacts with more resilience, and sometimes you react more than them. But you must be resilient if you want to succeed in not just in football, in every aspect of life. You have to be resilient because it's a tough world out there.
Well, I remember that Ajax game. My friend wanted to leave after the first half, and I was like, "No, let's stay. You never know." And then I could not believe it. In the last second, we tied and we went through. But that's something I haven't seen from them after that. I haven't really seen that.
I think that that probably would go down as one of the greatest games in the history of Tottenham Hotspur, if not the greatest.
It is the greatest I've ever seen in my lifetime.
And also because I think that what made it so wonderful was when we talk of resilience, I think we'd all given up. You know, I never, ever give up. I gave up for the first time ever. I thought at 2-0 down. I gave up twice, actually. I gave up I said at the half time, I said, we need a quick goal. If we don't get a quick goal, that's it. 15 minutes, nothing. We didn't even look like scoring. So I gave up. And then all of a sudden we got a goal, and I said, "Yeah, come on! If we get a quick one again, and then bang, and then at 3-2, when their keeper's got a goal kick, 40 seconds on the clock, I gave up again. I thought, well, he's just going to take his time. He's going to whack it down the field. We haven't got time to get it back into their box. Game over. I gave up again, much to my dismay and my shame. But then to be part of that last moment. It was better than when Guardiola and his team, after celebrating
the VAR decision,
VAR,
and the VAR overruled them. I mean, it was like, wow, two moments.
Pep dropped to his knees.
Yeah, 2 moments of absolute wow. Which would make both games go down in the history of Spurs as possibly the 2 greatest games in our history.
We were treated. We were treated that season, weren't we? Exactly. I know we failed at the end, but I mean, it was still. I will never forget that.
Yeah,
ever.
It was. It really, truly was, and resilience at its greatest in the semi-final, because even as someone as match hardened as me had given up.
Where were you watching that game? Just out of curiosity.
I was on a wheelchair. I'd played in the Inter Milan game and snapped my Achilles in 2 places. So I was on a wheelchair. So I actually watched the semi-final at home on my wheelchair. And when Mora scored, I jumped up off of my wheelchair. You can imagine. I'm hopping around the room, jumping and celebrating. And I watched the final in the director's box at the stadium with the big screen in the middle of the pitch. Obviously, I had a ticket for the game, but I was on a wheelchair. I couldn't go. So, in many ways, upset to miss the final, which was potentially one of the greatest day in our history. But still a great day all the same. To reach the Champions League final, second best team in Europe, was phenomenal.
Suppose you would be more upset to miss it if we'd won.
I would have been very upset if we'd won, but I was upset because I took all my grandchildren to the game as well at the stadium. So I had about 10 tickets. So I took my sons and my grandchildren, and we sat together and watched it. To watch their heartache was much worse than me being heartbroken. It was horrible.
Yeah, agreed.
I don't know. I felt off for that game because press conferences leading up to it, everyone looked like they had a foot out the door if we won it. That's no way to go to a final.
I'm not sure I agree with you on that occasion. And the reason I don't is because the quip from Pochettino, for instance, was misconstrued by everyone. Everyone thought he was saying, if I win, what he was saying is, I've achieved the greatest thing that Spurs have ever achieved. Where do I go from here? You know, he wasn't meaning I'm going to leave and go home to Argentina. He was meaning that, and I've discussed this with Ozzy, who's Poch's greatest mate. So I know that how it was construed in the press, etc., or by the pundits, was not how it was meant in the slightest.
The press twist things, we all know that. We all, agreed.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've got 2 very quick questions, Micky, if that's all right. One is, what is your favourite ever Spurs goal? As in the one you've scored.
Do you know what? I scored a goal at Highbury against Arsenal in my first ever North London derby. I think that if it had been televised, it would have gone down in one of the all-time great goals.
Yeah.
I received the ball on the D of the half-wheel line off Ricky Villa in the D of the half-wheel line, just inside their half.
Yeah.
I beat 3 men on this run.
Yeah.
And John Hollands, eventually, who was later to sign me, came sliding in from fullback to intercept my shot. And I went to shoot with my left foot, and he slid in, but I just touched it to the side of him.
Ooh.
And he slid past me, and then I just unleashed it into the top corner from 25 yards. It was spectacular. It was a wonderful goal, great skill from start to finish, great goal. Never got shown on TV because they inadvertently had wore a advertisement on their shirts. They weren't actually allowed in those days.
Oh, it's a massive shame.
I scored a few good goals in my time. I scored a goal against FC Bruges in the UEFA Cup, where I picked up a short corner on the corner of the box, took it inside, and then I whipped my foot right across it as if I was going into the near post.
Yeah.
And the keeper moved to the near, and it just swerved back into the very far top corner.
Top left. That's the one I was going to say. That's the one I've seen on YouTube. Was unbelievable.
Yeah, that was
some hit.
Yeah, the disguise was what.
Yeah,
done,
he went the wrong way. Yeah,
he went the wrong way. So it was. I only hit across the ball. So if you look at it, if you watch my foot, it's aiming across the ball.
Yeah.
Sort of there, which then takes the ball off where it's supposed to go, or where it's not where it's supposed to, but where he thinks it's going, and he moves to cover, and then it has the late swerve into the far top corner.
Yeah, I was going to say the swerve was unbelievable.
It's like a slice at golf. If you can imagine a golf, your foot, that when you slice it, you come from outside to in.
Yeah.
You know, or outside to out. And that's basically what I did. And it completely deceived them and flew into the top corner.
Proper goal, that one, yeah. Was that against Club Brugge, was it?
Yes, Club Brugge, yes.
Yeah, that was such a good goal. That was the one I thought you were going to say. But obviously, Tottenham Arsenal, the passion in that goal.
Never been seen, sadly.
So you can't find that goal anywhere?
Nowhere.
No one in the crowd with a.
I also scored an incredible goal at Coventry as well, which has never been seen either. And even though Arsenal, for instance, they've got it probably in their
archives
of goals, but I'm a Spurs player. They're not going to
release that to say, look at this amazing goal that was scored against us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We need to get like a James Bond rep to get us involved in Arsenal somehow, even though we don't want to, just to get the file so we can give it to you, Micky.
Listen, I don't think they'd send it to me. I think I'm despised over there.
Yeah, but
I'm more despised now than when I was a player.
Wow. Wow. Maybe because you've won the European Cup and then a lot of the Arsenal fans haven't seen them. So there you go.
That's what I keep telling them. Last night I had them on must have been 60 or 70 verbal of me last night. And I just said, look, don't get upset because I've won more European trophies than all of your squads of the last 20 years.
Micky, keep rustling them. Keep winding them up. We love it.
Yeah. So I have. I can't lie. I mean, they've only won one European trophy. They say they've won two, but the Fairs Cup was a friendly competition. I think they won the Cup Winners' Cup in 1977, wasn't it? So in the last 24 years, every squad they've had over that 24 years, even their Invincibles, I still won more European trophies than their Invincibles while they were playing for Arsenal. So they haven't got a comeback for that.
Yeah, no, it's a good one to have. Finn says it must be a great feeling scoring a belter like that in a North London derby. I really want to find it. I know we won't be able to, but
well, if you ever do, please send it to me.
Yeah, of course we will.
It was an absolute wonder goal, and you have to remember that. I joined Spurs as a sort of 12-year-old, but I joined as a schoolboy at 14, travelling down from Sunderland, and throughout my young life, the importance of the Spurs-Arsenal game was bred into you. It became the be-all. Look, you play well against Arsenal, beat them, score, you're a hero for the next season. So I spent my young life zoning in on, whenever we had an Arsenal game, the importance of it. I once scored an hat-trick against them in the youth team game, So I'd experienced what it felt like to, one, beat them, and to, two, score against them. But to then do it in your very first NLD, sitting on the bus, waiting to go into the stadium. And the Spurs fans are there going, come on, boy. Remember, I'd played maybe 10 games by this stage, 11, 12 games, whatever it was. And I'm coming into the biggest game of my life. I'm walking into the Marble Halls of Highbury, and I'm sitting in the dressing room, and I'm sitting there, and I know the importance of this game because I'd lived with it since I was sort of 14, coming down full time. I'd lived with the coaching staff, reminding us just what these types of this particular game means to the fans and to you as a player. So to then find myself scoring an absolute worldie in my first ever one was
unbelievable.
And strangely enough, and in the last ever one I played at Highbury, I got voted man of the match. We drew 1-1 when Darren Anderton scored. and I'd sort of did a skill on the edge of our box and picked out Jason Dezzalo, cushioned it into Darren's run, and bang, we scored. And we were 1-0 up for most of the game, and I was voted man of the match in that game. So my first ever one was great, which I was voted man of the match also. And in my last ever one, I got voted man of the match. I was 35 at the time. So, yeah, good memories of the NLDs.
Brilliant. And that's what I think is so great about your career as well, Micky, is you started at Tottenham and then you finished at Tottenham. It's like the perfect sandwich.
Extra special.
When I was sold by Spurs in '85, obviously I had the ultimate decision, but was told that I wouldn't play for the first team again because they needed financial money, they needed cash. So obviously I left. I spent, I'm not ashamed to admit, and this is not a slur on any other club that I played for, because I was a professional. I had to play for whoever I played for. But I spent the next 7 to 8 years, whatever it took me to get back, willing Spurs to re-sign me. And on 3 or 4 separate occasions, they attempted to, but I never quite got back until I got back. So when I retired, made the decision to retire, I had lots of offers from other clubs to go and play for them. But I was almost 36. I didn't want to uproot my life. I didn't want to uproot my family's life. I lived 20 minutes from Spurs, and I was more than happy to just retire and finish at Spurs, because it's where I started. It's where I finished. It's where I longed to finish. So perfect
ending, like the perfect ending of the finale day, like you said.
Exactly.
So it's a perfect career, and it perfectly ended, at White Hart Lane as well in terms of.
And I've worked there ever since. So
brilliant.
From the age of 36, when I retired, I went onto the coaching staff for 10 years. I then I now work in the corporate side of things at the stadium. So I've spent the best part of 42 years working for Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. And I have to say, there's not been a dull moment. It's been a roller coaster. But listen, when you go to the fairground, do you choose to go on the Peter Pan ride or the big roller coaster ride that goes up and down and lightning?
That's a great way of looking at it. I love that.
One. Yeah, I like that.
Everybody chooses the roller coaster ride because it's something special.
They got a lot of love for you, Micky, in here from Hot God. Finley saying proper Tottenham boy. Brilliant story. That leads me, what you just said about that story at the end, in terms of obviously talking about the finale and stuff, leads me on to my last question, which is, obviously you told us about a couple of stories about you like wandering around in Barcelona, which made me laugh. You told us about the finale, which obviously was a great day, and I'm sure you had a few beers on that one. I was going to bring the clip up, but I didn't want to embarrass you. So there's a clip on YouTube I found, and it's you singing the Chaz and Dave song with Ozzy Ardiles. I don't know if you remember it.
Yeah,
and you got Ozzy Ardiles to sort of sing it at the end. Maybe this wasn't the only time, but it's the one I saw on YouTube. I was going to say, firstly, what memories do you have of that day, and sort of what was going on in that one, and also like what's your favourite memory out with a Spurs legend, or a Spurs day out, maybe at a game? I know you said about the Real Madrid one, so sort of 2 questions in one.
I do events. And I did the 81 dinner, and I got Dave there from Chaz and Dave. And at the end of the night, I got everybody up on the stage, the full team, every member of the team, the management, and I got Dave up, and we did Ozzy's Dream. Yeah. And I have to say, Ozzy Ardiles, which the song was sort of based around, hated the song so much he couldn't even listen to it.
Yeah, he was very shy in it, wasn't he?
Yeah, and now Ozzy Ardiles loves it so much, it's his ringtone. It's his ringtone. And I have to say, the 81 team for me, in my lifetime, and I say this while I felt the 82 was a better team. One, I was in the team. But the 82 team was actually, Ozzy says it's the best team he's ever played in, the 82 team. But the 81 team for me is the team that is most synonymous with Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. It actually stood for everything that Tottenham Hotspur Football Club stands for. To dare is to do. The game is about the glory, the desire to entertain and not bore the opposition to death. Famous quotes from Danny Blanchfield and Bill Nicholson. Even in defeat will bring with it an echo of glory and all of these things.
Bill
The
Nicholson.
81 team for me stands for everything that Tottenham Hotspur Football Club stands for. So when I get to sing Ozzy's Dream with the 81 team, and I know I was part of the squad in 81, I get to sing with the team that I have the most admiration for in the history of Tottenham Hotspur Football Club, because they were brilliant players, but within the brilliance of those players, they absolutely loved Tottenham Hotspur Football Club and do to this day. And it's a joy to be part of it. The camaraderie, the friendship, 30 years, 40 years down the line, we still play golf with each other virtually every week. We still meet up every week on December the 14th. We're all going out for our Christmas get together. That's what real friendship is. That's what being part of that 80s team is all about. That today we still get to banter with one another. We get to mix with one another. We get to see one another. We get to eat with one another. We get to do events with one another. It really is testament to Tottenham Hotspur Football Club in many ways, because without Tottenham Hotspur Football Club, that camaraderie, that friendship, that love for each other could not be made possible. So yeah, I have so many wonderful memories of those guys and that team.
Like you said, it's so nice to hear that like you're still in contact with them, and not even just in contact with them. You're like really good friends with them. You go and play golf, like you said, and dinner, and I think that's brilliant. And that, like you said, is testament to Tottenham. Like that is Tottenham bringing everyone together. And
absolutely epitomizes what the club's
you know what? It's my hope that one day football wakes itself up and it opens itself up to the fans, because the fans should be part of that camaraderie. They should be part of that banter. They should be part of that fun. They should experience what we guys. I'm not saying that you can ever experience scoring a goal. You can only do that if you play for Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. But there's an experience that says, hang on. And I know they do it with children, but why should we not open it up to adults? One of the greatest feelings that I've ever had is walking out the tunnel to Glory, Glory, Tottenham Hotspur. And there's no reason why fans shouldn't experience that, because we could say, right, okay, 12 fans every week, march out with the team to Glory, Glory. They line up on the pitch, on the off-wheel line, wherever it's done, they line up and they experience the great things, because fans love the club unconditionally, and they spend their thousands of pounds year in, year out to make this club what it is. So world of football, not just Tottenham Hotspur Football Club, the world of football needs to open itself up to fans and invite them in to be part of the greatness and the great experiences that they can experience. Of course, they'll experience a great cup final going to Wembley or going there. But what would you choose to walk out on a match day to Glory, Glory in front of the team? I mean, can you imagine that feeling as an adult fan who supported the club? Imagine a 75-year-old guy who's supported this club all of his life, and then you invite him along to march the team out with 10 others.
Final, imagine,
I mean, it must be quite mind blowing, and I know that I have children who love Spurs. I have grandchildren who love Spurs, and I look at them and I think, God, I wish you could experience some of the things that I've experienced. Not being on the pitch playing, but off the pitch, walking out to Glory, Glory. I mean, wow, is there anything better? No. Getting to sing with other legends. The things that, that's the one thing that I pride myself on, is that I'm taking events out to the Spurs fans and I'm trying to give them experiences like singing Ozzy's Dream, and all the fans get involved with the team with the players involved, and it's absolutely sensational. It's a wonderful feeling.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. I was going to literally say you almost provide that a little bit in the events you do at the stadiums with the the talks and the signings, and I think that's
I hope
part of
so.
it.
I hope so because, as he said earlier, football without fans is nothing. Fans without football is nothing. It's a great quote, and it's so real. And I hope that if there's one thing that I consider to be one of my greatest achievements is that I try to recreate that camaraderie and that togetherness and that family circle with the Spurs fans in the events that I run.
And that makes it so much more special because experiencing a special moment for your club as a fan can go so much deeper than just watching them score a winning goal in a final or a semi-final.
1,000,000%.
It's being a part of something, and you've done so much to.
Yeah, nail on the head.
You mentioned it. Yeah,
exactly. And you've been telling us about your stories now, and like time has absolutely flown. So like the fact that you do the events and people listen to.
I'm not sure you're aware of this, but it's actually Wednesday now.
Yes.
Well,
brilliant.
For me, we're 45 minutes away because I'm 2 hours ahead of you guys. And
oh yeah, of course, yeah.
But no, in all seriousness, like there's the upcoming event I saw you promoted on your Twitter, Micky. Guys, if you're watching and you want to go and experience the chat, I think you got Ledley King over there, Michael Dawson, is it? And
I'm doing Ledley King and Michael Dawson tomorrow evening. I'm excited. It's an opportunity for me to get inside the minds of the modern day player, if you like.
Yeah.
Both Spurs, passionate Spurs fans, both being top players for Spurs. So yeah, I'm excited about the evening. I can't wait to get it running. It's too long coming. One of the problems that you have is when you're running a special event, you sort of get excited yourself, and then some nights you lie there thinking, "Oh, I'm the question. I've got to ask questions. Oh my God, what am I going to ask?" Then when I open it to the fans, what are their questions going to be? How am I going to build on that? It's going to be a wonderful occasion.
Yeah, definitely.
We've got some Spurs fans coming who flew over from America to the Burnley game.
Okay.
We've invited them to the evening because it got called off. So
are they coming?
There's about 6 of them coming to the evening tomorrow night to make up for them missing out on the Burnley game.
Oh, there was 6 of them. I thought it was only 2 of them because
there was 2, but then I was contacted by 2 from Washington and 2 from somewhere else. So hey,
I'm from Atlanta as well in America as well. I came all the way. But in all seriousness, if there is tickets, guys, I don't know if there is, Micky, or if it's sold out, but guys, go and check it out.
Because we've got a massive venue.
Guys, go and check it out. Go and get your tickets if you want to experience something even better than today, and to actually see Micky and Ledley in person, and obviously Dawson as well. It'd be absolutely fantastic. But Micky, I know we have been on here for a long time now. And we greatly, I'm sure I speak for Michael and Andre as well, appreciate your time massively. It's been a fantastic chat, and I've thoroughly enjoyed it. One of my favourite ones, if not the favourite.
My pleasure, guys.
Yeah. Thanks, mate. Common you Spurs. We're going to wrap up the podcast, guys. Make sure you subscribe. Thumbs up, Micky. Cheers, mate. Take care, mate. Thanks so much. All the best, guys. Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye.